Welcome to Candlewick Library. I'm Cheryl. Today I'm sharing my TBR for the Red, White, and June readathon. In the announcement video, I shared the really cute graphic that Shannon created for this readathon. It has each of us co-hosts connected to a different prompt. So I added that to my reading journal. The way I planned my TBR for this is that I picked a book for every single prompt, including one fiction and one nonfiction that were not one of the other ones. So I have 7 books that I'm planning on for sure reading for this readathon. And then I have a few extras that I'm hoping to get to. And then I also have some other books that have nothing to do with this readathon that I want to read in June, but I'm going to make a separate video for that. So I'm just going to go down the graphic sharing the books I'm planning on reading for each of those prompts. The first prompt is the fictional book. And for that, I just recently heard about this book and saw it in the store. It's called Sophia's War, A Tale of the Revolution by Abby. This says it is 1776. The Revolutionary War in America rages, and New York City is newly occupied by the powerful British Army. Young Sophia Calderwood's beloved soldier brother, William, is being held on a gruesome British prison ship. Horrified by the atrocities she sees there, Sophia resolves to avenge his brutal treatment and help advance the patriot cause. She soon gets her chance. Recruited by a mysterious gentleman, Sophia becomes a spy in the home of the supreme commander of the British forces. There she discovers that an American general plans to switch sides in a plot that will irreparably damage the Americans if it succeeds. But the identity of the would-be traitor is so shocking that no one believes Sophia, so she decides to stop the treachery herself. But she's alone, she's a girl, and she's running out of time, and if she fails, she'll be hung. So this book could actually fit a lot of the prompts, but I'm going to just use it as a general fictional book. Then for the nonfiction prompt, I am going to be reading George Washington's Rules of Civility and Decent Behavior in Company and Conversation. This also has his first inaugural address inside of it. It's a really small book with just little bits of information throughout. So I think this would be really good. I have not ever read this and I've wanted to for a long time. So it's a perfect opportunity. For the prompt Secrets or Spies, I'm going to be reading Patriots, Redcoats, and Spies. This is by Robert Asked. When Patriot Lamberton Clark is shot by a British redcoat soldier, he has only 2 hopes of getting the secret message he's carrying to General George Washington, his 14-year-old twin boys. Upon discovering that their father is a spy and express writer for the Culper spy ring, the boys accept their mission. They set off to find the general, but the road to the commander-in-chief of the Continental Army is full of obstacles, including the man who shot their father, who is hot on their trail. So I've heard good things about this one, so I wanted to try this one for the spies, even though I am reading quite a few books that have to do with spies. For Loyalist or Patriot, I picked Rebellion 1776 by Laurie Halse Anderson. This I just found at a used bookstore just a few weeks ago, so I decided to use it for this one. In March of 1776, Elsbeth Culpeper finally had hope. Hope that the Patriots would beat the British Army and free Boston. Hope that she could quit working as a kitchen maid and start apprenticing with a seamstress. Hope that she and Papa would live together under the same roof again, something they hadn't done since Mama and her brothers and baby sister. Well, it's too sad to say. But the flames of war quickly turn all her hopes to ash. The British and Loyalists prepare to flee, plunging Boston into chaos. As Elsbeth searches for her missing father, she stumbles across a stranger dying of smallpox. An epidemic rages in tandem with the American Revolution. Suddenly, her dreams of the future are reduced to one simple wish: survival. So obviously in the blurb for that, it mentions Loyalist and Patriot by name. So I thought that would be a perfect one for that prompt. For the prompt that was connected with me, it is quill and parchment. So anything with correspondence. And I'm going to be reading George Washington's Secret Six by Brian Kilmeade and Don Yeager. This is a nonfiction, and I believe it was Shannon that mentioned this one about the correspondence prompt. When George Washington beat a hasty retreat from New York City in August 1776, many thought the American Revolution might soon be over. Instead, Washington rallied, thanks in large part to a little-known top-secret group called the Culper spy ring. He realized he couldn't defeat the British with military might, so he recruited a sophisticated and deeply secretive intelligence network to infiltrate New York. Drawing on extensive research, Brian Kilmeade and Don Yeager have offered fascinating portraits of these spies: a reserved Quaker merchant, a tavern keeper, a brash young longshoreman, a curmudgeonly Long Island bachelor, a coffee house owner, and a mysterious woman. Long unrecognized, the Secret Six are finally receiving their due among the pantheon of American heroes. I'm really excited to read this because I've read a few books about the Culper spy ring, and that is something that I am very interested in, which is why probably a lot of these are spy books. I like spy books in general, so I'm very interested in the Culper spy ring and anything like that. And then for Faith That Endures, I'm hoping this one will end up counting, but I think it will. I am going to read The Love Letter by Rachel Hauck. It doesn't necessarily mention faith on the back. It says, romance has never been actress Chloe Dashel's forte in life or on screen, but everyone knows who to call for a convincing death scene, and it might be killing her career. When Chloe is given a peek at the script for an epic love story, she decides to take her destiny into her own hands and request an audition for the lead female role, Esther Kingsley. The compelling tale, inspired by family lore and a one-page letter from the colonial ancestor of scriptwriter Jessie Gates, just might break her out of this career-crippling rut. Jesse would rather write about romance than live through it after his past relationship ended in disaster. But once on set together, the chemistry between Jesse and his leading lady is hard to deny. Centuries earlier, in the heart of the Revolutionary War, Hamilton Lightfoot and Esther Longfellow wrote their saga off the silver screen. Esther's loyalist father opposes any relationship with Hamilton, but Esther must face her beloved father's disapproval and the dangers of war in order to convince Hamilton of their future together. Hamilton has loved Esther for years, and on the eve of the battle pens the love letter she's always wanted, something straight from the heart. Set in stunning upcountry South Carolina, it is a beautifully crafted story of the courage it takes to face down fear and chase after love, even in the darkest of times. So I'm hoping this will have the faith content to be able to fit that prompt. Last prompt is Courage in Petticoats. For this, I have a book that I'm really excited and really nervous to read. I'm going to be reading A Founding Mother. This is by Stephanie Dray and Laura Camoy, a novel of Abigail Adams. It says, in time for the 250th anniversary of the birth of the United States comes a sweeping, intimate portrayal of Abigail Adams, wife of one president and mother to another, whose wit, willpower, and wisdom helped shape the fledgling republic. A stunning historical novel with modern-day implications from the New York Times bestselling authors of America's First Daughter and My Dear Hamilton. The reason... Obviously, I'm excited to read it because I love Abigail Adams. I love John Adams and Abigail Adams. And in fact, my oldest daughter's name is Abigail. I am excited to read it for that reason, but I'm also very nervous because I tend to avoid books that are novels about someone real because I'm always worried about how much of the author's opinion is going to be put into it, into the thoughts of that person, because often that will be shown. It will have their thoughts, it will have conversations that are all made up. And I don't, there's something about that that bothers me. Sometimes when it's done in children's books, it doesn't bother me as much. I do tend to read books less that are about real people if they are novelized. Also, when it says with modern day implications, I don't know what that's going to mean. So I have really high hopes for this. I love the cover. I think it's beautiful. I have really high hopes for this, but I'm also going into it with a level of skepticism so that hopefully it will exceed my expectations. If you know anything about it, you can let me know. I think it will be really interesting to see what this is all about. And then as far as books that are not for the prompts, there are a few more books that I really want to get to. And then I have some books that I'm going to be reading with my daughter in school because we are actually in the revolutionary time period right now in our history. And we will be continuing that. We'll be doing that for the rest of the school year into the end of June, and then starting up with it again in September. So I will be reading some books in September as well. But the ones that I know I'll be getting to in June with her, first of all, there's one we're already reading right now. It's The Childhood of Famous Americans, Benjamin Franklin, Young Printer. I don't tend to love these ones as much as the Heroes of History series, or even the What Is or Who Was books. I don't think they're done as well as those two. They're still pretty good most of the time. This one has been probably, I haven't liked this one as much as some of the other ones yet, but I'm hoping that it will still give us a really good picture of Benjamin Franklin, that we'll really have enjoyed it by the time we get to the end of it. We've already started this one, but we won't be finishing it until the first week of June, so it'll be partly in June. And then the other ones we'll be reading for school in June are the What Is the Declaration of Independence. We have read this one before, but I wanted to read it again. One that I read when I was younger, and I haven't read it since then, I don't think, and that she's never read, is My Brother Sam is Dead by James Lincoln Collier and Christopher Collier. This is, it says, all his life, Tim Meeker has looked up to his brother Sam. Sam's smart and brave and always knows the right thing to do. In fact, everyone in town has admired Sam Meeker until now. Now Sam is part of the new American Revolutionary Army. He talks about defeating the British and becoming independent and free, but not everyone in town wants to be part of this new America. Most people are loyal supporters of the English king, especially Tim and Sam's father. The war is raging and Tim knows he'll have to make a choice, but how can he choose when it means fighting his father on one side and fighting his brother on the the other. And I remember liking this when I was younger, so hopefully I still will, and hopefully she will. And then I saw this series of books that are called Decide and Survive, and this one is Agent 355, Can You Win the Revolution? And so it sounds like this is one of those kind of choose your own adventure type books. And so I thought that would be kind of a fun thing to do one day, just for us to do together. Then there's 2 more books I'm planning on reading that are really short little children's books that I want to try to get in June just for fun. One is a reread of Meet Felicity, An American Girl. This is book 1. I want to also watch Felicity, the American Girl movie, during the month. And so I thought it would be fun just to flip through this. I mean, it's really small. I'll be able to read it really fast and to watch the movie after that. I don't have all of the books in her series, so I probably won't read all of them, but I'll read at least this first one. And then I also got this book, Seeds of Rebellion by Wendy Nugent. This says, American Revolution Williamsburg History Detective Club. What if you could travel back to the moment America was born? When Rose is catapulted from modern-day Williamsburg to 1774, she's plunged into a city alive with rebellion, danger, and secrets. With Pearl risking everything in the past and Nathaniel decoding clues in the present, Rose is swept into a dangerous plot on the eve of the American Revolution that could change history forever. Together, they must uncover hidden clues, face dangerous choices, and solve a mystery before history itself is rewritten. Seeds of Rebellion blends real history with thrilling adventure. So I think that sounds pretty fun, and I think it was Shannon herself that recommended this one. So I definitely want to read this one as well. I was thinking I was going to use it for one of the prompts, but then I realized how many books I actually had that I wanted to read, and that I already had all the prompts covered. That is my TBR for the Red, White, and June readathon. I would love to hear what you're planning on reading if you're going to take part, if you've read and liked or disliked any of these.